Nigeria's flag has this morning been flying at half-mast on the orders of President Muhammadu Buhari, a full 2 days after a crop of senior army officers, including Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, perished in an air crash at the Kaduna International Airport. This is the third major tragedy to befall the nation's Air Force in the past 5 months. The latest air accident has sent tongues wagging and minds busy as Nigerians try to come to terms with the reality of losing 33 members of the military of the officer corps in similar circumstances in such a short space of time. Well, joining us now from our Rise Abuja studio to try to make sense of it all is retired Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, a veteran fighter pilot who before retirement logged in more than 2,500 flying hours. He's now a security expert and founder Green Heroes Foundation. Welcome to the program, Commodore Balogun. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Well, quickly, the incident that occurred on Friday, leading to the death in a plane crash of the Chief of Army Staff and 10 others. Now, that's the third incident within a space of about 5 months. Is it that Nigeria Air Force aircraft are not well maintained? Is it that these aircraft, they have technical issues? What do you think could be responsible for this beyond just classifying it as an accident? And then, do you think that the response of the federal government has been adequate in terms of the funeral ceremonies and the steps that have been taken, including the declaration of a holiday today for members of the Nigeria Air Force, and also the directive that the Nigerian flag should be flown at half-mast, almost 3 days after the incident?
Yes, thank you very much. Let's start with the accident first. There have been so much false news and fake news. I'm talking from my personal experience because I served in the Air Force for 33 years, and like you said, I flew so many hours. And we know what we go through every day we go out there to fly. So when people come up with different ideas and claims that the aircraft crashed because of this reason, because of that reason, everything right now is assumption. People assume they know while they don't know. If you take, for example, the video that said 2 pilots from the Beechcraft aircraft ejected and they were seen coming down from the sky, that is total fabrication. Because Beechcraft is a transport aircraft. There's no transport aircraft today that the pilots will eject and leave the passengers. It's not possible. So that is totally false. It was window shopping, and some people who want to create some bad blood within Nigerians are framing all sorts of stories. Now, what were the causes? What was the cause of this accident? I still maintain that the cause will be determined by the Accident Investigation Board, who are currently holding it, looking into it. But for the rest of us, we will just assume. And then some of us who have the experience in the field, we can put 1 and 2 together and say, these are the likely causes. However, it is not final. The final report will come from the AIB, who is a civil organization and currently handling the investigation. Now, generally, what are the reasons for or causes of air accidents? There are basically 3 major causes. First is the aircraft maintenance record, or aircraft error, or equipment error, as some people call it. Then we have the human factor, which is the man behind the machine. Then we have the other one that we call act of God. Act of God are things that happen, unforeseen circumstances that is beyond the control of the pilot. The pilot is a human being like me and you, and normally in our lives, there are situations that we encounter and is beyond our control. So we call that act of God. The fourth category that is not too popular but can happen is suicidal tendencies. We've heard of cases of pilots who have suicidal tendencies and they go in to fly the aircraft with passengers and they intentionally crash that aircraft. Fortunately, we don't have that recorded in our record in Nigeria. However, air crashes, we pray so hard not to have it, especially those of us in the military. But it's a fact that we live with. It will surely happen as long as you fly. And looking at our effort at flying these days because of the challenges we have ahead of us, there is no point, there is no time in our history that the Nigerian Air Force has been involved in so many sorties, so many hours within a space of time because of what we were passing through. There was a time we were only dedicated to moving soldiers from one place to the other and flying VIPs around the country. But today it's not so. We fly the VIPs, we move troops here and there, we engage in combat. So there are more flying activities. Like I said, we pray it doesn't happen, but there is likely to have more air accidents. But the reason we have Accident Investigation Board is to learn about the causes of such accidents so that we can use the lesson to prevent the future one. And I think they are currently doing it. Now, the next one you ask about the president declaring or should declare today as a holiday for the military members of the armed forces. Don't forget we are at war. Do you take holidays at the war front? No. You must maintain that aim until the war is over. But then the president is the father of the nation. He chooses to do with us what he pleases him. He knows something that we don't know. The military men are dedicated to protecting the lives and properties of Nigeria. So they follow directions. Whatever they say is what we do. I mean, whatever the government say is what the military men will do. Coming to the issue of the funeral, I can't say much on that because there are superior authorities who decide on that, and I will leave that judgment to them. Can we continue for now, sir? Well,
I mean, I was going to ask you a follow-up question. You were talking about Accident Investigation Bureau. Well, in the past, we had similar, air crashes, and nobody ever, provided necessary information to educate the public about the outcome of those investigations. Or is it, the investigation process, is it something that is naturally shrouded in secrecy?
Not normally. Military accident investigation will remain with the military. Because until we find out the root causes of such military air accidents, we will try to keep it a secret, especially at a situation where you are at war. When you open everything you have to the world, then your enemy will take advantage of them. So, to enable us to work well, we must keep some secret. But then, if an aircraft that is carrying passengers, especially to a civil airport like the one in Kaduna, we must involve the AIB, and they are currently the one handling it. But you can't say AIB should go to Sambisa Forest and investigate the last Alpha jet that we are still searching for. No, that's not possible. They won't even go there. But we also have trained accident investigators within the service who work and train with these same people in the civil. So they are there to provide the first the first report. If we decide to make it public, yes, we will. If it is in the interest of Nigeria to make it public, we will, like we said. The result of accident investigation is to prevent future. So I think this particular one that happened at the Kaduna International, we must endeavor to let the civil handle it.
Well, Commodore Balogun, let's take a quick commercial break, and after that break, we'll come back. The conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with retired Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, veteran fighter pilot. Now, sir, before the break, you were saying about how the investigations, if at all they're going to be thoroughly conducted, might be kept away from the public domain. I want to also link that to the point you made about misinformation, fake news, completely fabricated accounts. Will it not be helpful at this time where, as you observe, Nigeria is in a war? We're fighting on different fronts, including those who are agitating for secession, those who are exhibiting all kinds of intolerance towards their fellow Nigerians of different ethnic extractions, would it not be helpful at this point to bring transparency to the process and make an exception to suit a climate such as what we have now? And also, my second question is to return to the point about the funerals and the way that they were conducted. As a former Air Commodore yourself, what would the morale be like now? Can you tell us how members of the Air Force would be feeling when their comrades, their brave comrades, have been referred to as other, 10 others? As if it was only the Chief of Army Staff who is worthy of being called by his name. And also for the Chief of Army Staff, a person of that stature, we see the President did not attend his funeral, did not visit. At least the First Lady had that kind of human compassion to actually pay a visit. What will that do to the morale? What we're hearing now is everybody's just jostling to fill the position. He tragically vacated.
Okay, thank you very much. The current situation in Nigeria, across Nigeria, everywhere, I'm not sure the military should be brought into it to show some kind of transparency of government. The government have their way of handling such things. We, the military, are just there as a tool to be used as it pleases the president and the ruling class. But then, it's not that we shall allow ourselves to be used against the society, which I believe it won't happen. So we stay independent, we have always been, and the military protects all. Despite all the differences, it is still the military institution that is still together in this country. While people are agitating for this or that, the military still remains the only binding force that we have. And we should not allow that bondness that is within the military to be splintered on these kind of agitations for this and that. The military will still keep Nigeria as one as much as we can. So I don't think the military should be going into that, and I will not want to comment on that. But then the funeral proceedings, yes, how does it affect the morale? It depends on who is asking about morale. For the soldiers, death to us is a natural thing because it's something we have always expected. We pray for it not to happen, but then once you sign that dot that you are enlisting and you have been accepted, you have signed away everything. You sign away your comfort, your freedom, and the most important thing, your life, if there is need to do so for your country, which we obey. Now, if we have one of us that is gone, it's not totally unexpected. We call it in the line of duty. We are always serving 24 hours a day. We could do more than that if it is available. So when it happens, the morale does not die, but the morale remains high. It's within the military, in fact, to quickly bolster the morale. And I know one of those things we do is that when such things happen, you must visit the families of the deceased immediately to tell them that they still have your support and whatever their discomfort will be provided for by the military authorities. And I've heard that that is already ongoing for this recent crash. And I know from my past experience that that is the situation. So morale of the members of the military will continue to remain high. However, the civilian populace looking at it from the outside, who does not know how the military operates inside, will feel somehow that their friends, their families are lost and that they are not getting the required attention. It depends. Different tales for different folks. But for the military that can specifically talk about, I think the morale will be high because as a fighter pilot then, even if you are alive, but you survive an air crash, you will be made to fly the very next day. Because if you don't fly the very next day, that's when your morale becomes low. You become afraid, you are scared of going there. But then, once they make you to continue doing what you are doing, you will never feel demoralized. For the funeral that some big men did not attend, they may have their reasons which I'm not privy to. The president has a lot of protocol procedures that guides his movement in and out of office. I don't know that, and I think they know why they did not. So I will let the politicians answer that.
Okay, thank you so much once again. Commiserations to our valiant heroes as they lost their life in active service. So please confirm to me, or probably you throw more light on this. Is it true that the plane tried to make a landing at Mano in Kaduna, that's the Air Force base? And why did it leave there to try to land at a civilian airport? Is it true that the reason why the plane didn't land at Mano was because they said the Air Force base didn't have a bigger windbreaker than the bigger civilian Kaduna International Airport? Confirm for me on that. Secondly, is it true that the plane hit the tarmac? Did it hit the tarmac and it skidded off the runway? What were the circumstances of the crash? Can you confirm that to me? Those two things, sir.
All right, thank you very much. I'll take the two at once, but then let me start from the route. The flight originated from Abuja, going to Kaduna Military. Let me make it clear here that before a pilot accepts to fly an aircraft, he must first check that the aircraft is airworthy before he signs his signature and accepts responsibility for the aircraft and for the passengers on board. The pilot in question, both the pilot and the co-pilot, were duly trained and had enough experience to conduct that mission. And they signed the aircraft. And then, while planning for such mission, it is expected that the pilot, while planning, will check the destination weather, check alternate weather in case the weather at the destination is not favorable. We must do that because we prepare for the emergency before we take off. But then, what we are hearing until the AIB come up with the final assessment, we are just assuming, but based on our experience here and there, we are trying to put one or two things together. It is assumed that the aircraft departed Abuja in good weather and then went to Kaduna. There was a squall line, a line of thunderstorms that moved towards, from the east towards the Kaduna airfield, and the aircraft could not land. On seeing that, because safety is the first consideration, he decided to go to the civil airport, which we call the Kaduna International. Now, before he does that, there is a radar screen right in front of him that will tell him, yes, there is weather, but there are categories of weather and in different intensity levels. He must have seen if it is red, he will not go there. If it is yellow, which is caution, he may attempt to, if he knows he can manage it. If it is green, then all well and good. And it is assumed also that he saw the runway that is accessible, he could go in there and went in. Now people are asking, why did he come back to Abuja? On that same day, the weather had moved into Abuja. So, looking at all the options, he must have felt that landing in Kaduna, especially with the VIP that was going to Kaduna, would be a better option. And he actually went in, touched down on the tarmac. He was a trained pilot. Despite the weather that turned a lot of other aircrafts away, he still went in, touched down on the runway. But like I said, there are different causes of air accident. There's that one that we call act of God. And weather is a part of act of God, which we don't have control on. Yes, though we have early warning about weather, but when you enter it, the intensity sometimes cannot be determined until you are right inside it. So what the assumption for that led us to is that after touching down, there was an updraft and downdraft, or possibly some microburst, which is associated with thunderstorm. If I can make it simpler, when you fly in the air at high altitude, sometimes you feel a sudden loss of altitude as if the aircraft is going to drop. Then the aircraft will regain that and come back. It is caused by convective currents, the air currents that are unstable because there are different special levels. So when you fly at altitude and that occurs, the aircraft will recover, you are lucky. But then when that happens close to the ground, the pilot may not have enough time to react. In fact, he doesn't have control once it is an updraft and downdraft. It takes him down. But because he was close to landing the aircraft, he probably will lose control. So the aircraft touched down on the tarmac, and we were assuming that the updraft and downdraft caused by wind shear took the aircraft off the runway and to the side, and he hit an object and he exploded. In my past, I had also run out of the runway. Fortunately, I didn't hit any object. The aircraft sank, and two of us were inside the aircraft. We came out and ran for our life, because aircraft will always want to catch fire when you hit something off the runway. So for now, that is the assumption, but then we must still wait. We don't need to jump to conclusions and start saying it is lack of training, it is lack of maintenance. That is why the AIB handles all things like that. So the AIB will have the final say. I don't have it yet, but we are just assuming and trying to see what happens. Thank you.
Well, Commodore Balogun, the newspapers are washed this morning with speculations, anxiety, permutations about where the next Chief of Army Staff will come from. And part of it also is concern about how, that can affect the military hierarchy, course 35 or course 36 or course 38. What kind of consultation, if there is any, goes into the appointment of a Chief of Army Staff, particularly under circumstances such as this?
The appointment of service chiefs is not within the purview of the members of the armed forces. We've seen it when Nigerians were calling for the removal, for the change of the last set of service chiefs. Who did it? The presidency, the political class. We have been, the Constitution said we are, subjugated to the Constitution. And who executes the Constitution? The president. So who selects the service chief is the president, not members of the armed forces. And he looked at other variables and come up with a candidate that will suit everything. When we were waiting for the last or the new set of service chiefs, we waited, there were postulations, there were calculations, but then the man came up and we were all happy and we were satisfied. So I think we should leave all that juxtaposing, I decide, and wait for the president to announce a new service chief for the Nigerian Army.
Well, thank you very much, Air Commodore Balogun. That's all we'll be able to take. Thank you very much indeed for throwing light on many of the issues we raised. Thank you.